Today we are now discussing about decision making. How decisions are made? Who makes decisions? What is the process involved? What do you mean by decision making? What are the types of decision making? And what are the processes involved in this? Besides the types and the models. Commonsensical meaning of decision is how you have decided on a particular thing. But this is quite a complex concept in the study of public administration. In fact, this is the gateway to the understanding of the theory of public administration, how decisions are made there. The very process of decision making is of immense interest not only to the theoreticians of public administration, but to the future of an economy, a country, a family, an individual. If this is so interesting area of study there, how theoreticians of public administration look at it will be of immense interest to the students of public administration. Chestal Barnard was the pioneer of the decision-making approach, and we have to consider him as the principal architect of its role in understanding public administration. He said that it's essential process of organizational action. Herbert Simon, a Nobel laureate, was a prominent decision-making theorist and a significant and a detailed contributor of the behavioralist school of thought. Decision-making is a process through which optimal choice is made from several possible alternatives for arriving at a solution for a given situation and which will ensure maximum benefit and least risk. In the culmination of an effort to form a final choice out of set alternatives is the process by which decisions are taken. There are also several other meanings, like for instance, it's a goal-oriented process. That means that all decision making should have some goal orientation there, and it's an intellectual process as it is a product of deliberations, reasoning and evaluation. It's also referred to as a dynamic process, varying with the type of the problem and the available time. It is situational in nature, as the same decision cannot be taken in general for all situations. So therefore, decisions have to be taken keeping in mind the environmental factors too. What are they? Political, economic, geographic, social, etc. In fact, decision making is a continuous and an ongoing process, one decision being followed and supplemented by another one and so on there. It cannot be fully be objective as an intuition, instinct and a host of other psychological factors that contribute to the choice of an alternative out of seemingly similar alternatives. A decision is usually made within the guidelines of an established policy. A policy is relatively extensive, which will affect many problems and is referred to again and again there. For instance, poverty alleviation or elimination of poverty. Number of decisions are taken as to what are the different approaches or strategies to be adopted for tackling this particular problem. Secondly, it is essentially problem solving in nature as it applies to a particular problem there. As I told you, for instance, you want to eliminate illiteracy. And what are the strategies that are available? You need to look at the problem in totality, and then that particular problem like illiteracy can be tackled using several strategies, and several decisions go into that particular area. So we can say that situational context, time constraints, in addition to even cause, determine the decision making. If this is so complex, what is the process involved in this? First of all, you should define the problem. Suppose I am saying that government is committed for elimination of poverty. First of all, we need to define the problem. Like, what constitutes poverty or how poverty can be understood. Is it from the nutrition point of view? Is it from the purchasing power point of view? Or which kind of aspect you are having in mind? So define the problem there and analyze the problem. Like how poverty leads to implications on school-going children, nutrition status, women's health, etc., etc. And accordingly gather relevant information, the third step. The first two are defining, next analyzing, then gathering relevant information. How many are below the poverty line, for instance? How many are above the poverty line? Then developing alternative solutions there. What is the best way to tackle poverty there? Is it through creating employment like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program? Or is it subsidizing, say for instance, rice, increasing the purchasing power of the poor people by creating employment and by reducing the cost of the rice for especially those who are below the poverty line? So differing or developing alternative solutions is the next step there. And now select the best solution under the circumstances. What are the circumstances under which we need to give subsidy or withdraw subsidy or limit subsidy to particular segment of population or segments of population, excluding others, So, there are different ways. And then deciding on action. What should be the action approach? Say in 150 days, can you organize a program there? Like deciding on course of action there. In this regard, Simon, the best known work of Simon, as you are well aware, for his analysis and model of decision making refers to three consequential steps in the process of decision making. Number one is the intelligence activity, number two is the design activity, number three is the choice activity. Of course, we should note here that in one of his later writings in association with James Marsh, he added a fourth step called follow-up activity involving implementation of the decisions there. Let us now look at the types of the decision making there. Primarily, we are concerned with administrative decisions. Administrative decisions are again classified as programmed and non-programmed. We need to know little more detail as far as these aspects are concerned. Decisions are programmed to the extent that they are routine and repetitive, so that a definite procedure has been worked out for handling them and they don't have to be treated de novo each time they occur. I may give you a very elementary example what the government does in areas like declaration of holidays. Every year you will be preparing a list of holidays there. The decision to announce it on a particular day was taken much before. Therefore, as a programmed activity, the decision gets done in such a simple way there. It's also a decision by president whether we need to give holiday to X festival or Y festival is more guided by president than by other considerations as such there. And such decisions which could be seen having repetitive components and where examples are present and somewhat of routine nature with fixed variables. These kinds of decisions are suitable to be delegated to lower levels of organization. There are non-programmed decisions like such decisions which are novel, unstructured, unique and non-repetitive in nature, having a new environment and variables there. The immediate example that I can quote to you is decision taken by governments across the country, sometimes like loan waiver. Loan waiver is generally unstructured program and a unique and non-repetitive. It cannot be repeated. It was done by Devilal, in 70s once. All those, who have, or in 90s, wherein all those who have loans up to 10,000 rupees or some such figure was waived off there. But there was the banking sector stiffly opposed such moves there. Actually, it will shake the monetary policy. And these decisions are advised to be kept at the higher level of management there. Non-programmed decisions, as you are well aware, are novel, unstructured, unique and non-repetitive in nature, having a new environment and variables there. And there are several models of decision making, like for instance, to determine the extent of rationality of decision makers. Rationality itself means that to say selecting the best out of the many alternatives that are available there. And to determine the range from complete rationality to irrationality of the economic man and social man respectively.